Oh. Be right back. I had to get the controller. Chico had the TV on too loud. No, say you must have been busy this afternoon. Okay. Oh, Harry. Our lady at TikTok's missing. I haven't seen her. I lost the videos I have. Hopefully she'll be back on later before we get off. So there's 5 clips I got to play from the hearing. Today's topic was Kristi Noem on the hearing today, and then Crockett we had about her losing last night.
The general gives you.
Oh, I got a Michigan video I just found. Well, I hope everybody had a good Wednesday. No big breaking news yet. No arrest made yet. Carol. We got Billy Bean. See 10 mixing in. We got Pine Eagle. What? So we get.
Well, finally warming up here. Well,
Come on, stop.
Wednesday. Well, finally warming up here.
Here's Chico today. You guys can see it.
Well, finally warming up here. Wednesday.
There he is.
Chico getting every spot. Bright sun. Barely see him.
That's Canada across from me there. Across the water.
There you go, Chico.
He's hiding in a corner over there. Okay. Boz, hey. Nothing on Mel yet. And Jay, there's Flying Eagle. Did you see Chico? I just showed everybody. Yep, thanks for the banner. You know what though, Spots? There's a 4-minute video that Mel put out on her page on the RV. So we'll play that one. See what other one she has out. Okay, that's the only one so far. Yep, so everybody you missed it about last night. Crockett said that there was cheating involved last night in the primaries. Okay. We'll do those 5 clips before we're gonna start on that army guy has a speech for 5 minutes.
I lead U.S. military forces in the Middle East. I'm here to provide you an update on Operation Epic Fury, now in our 4th day of execution. First, I'd like to express my deepest condolences to the families and teammates of the extraordinary Americans who've been killed in action. And I'd also like to extend our prayers for a speedy recovery to the wounded. Yesterday, you heard from Secretary Hegseth and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Today, I'd like to give you an operational update on where we are and provide you with some key facts. By order of the President of the United States and the Secretary of War, our military in the Middle East is undertaking an unprecedented operation to eliminate Iran's ability to threaten Americans, as they've been doing for nearly half a century. Having spent more than 36 years in the military, I could not be prouder of America's sons and daughters in uniform who are answering the call. More than 50,000 troops, 200 fighters, 2 aircraft carriers, and bombers from the United States are participating in this operation, and more capability is on the way. These forces bring a massive amount of firepower, representing the largest buildup by the U.S. in the Middle East in a generation. In the opening hours of Operation Epic Fury, U.S. Central Command forces, together with Israel, delivered overwhelming and unprecedented strikes into Iran. Many of you may remember the shock and awe strikes of 2003. The first 24 hours of this operation were nearly double the scale, and we continue with 24/7 strikes into Iran from seabed to space and cyberspace. Now we're less than 100 hours into this operation, and we've already struck nearly 2,000 targets with more than 2,000 munitions. We have severely degraded Iran's air defenses and destroyed hundreds of Iran's ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. And in simple terms, we're focused on shooting all the things that can shoot at us. Our B-2 bombers and B-1 bombers have executed uncontested surgical strikes against multiple missile facilities deep inside Iran. And then just last night, a B-52 bomber force struck ballistic missile and command and control posts. We are also sinking the Iranian Navy, the entire Navy. Thus far, we've destroyed 17 Iranian ships, including the most operational Iranian submarine that now has a hole in its side. For decades, the Iranian regime has harassed international shipping. Today, there's not a single Iranian ship underway in the Arabian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, or Gulf of Oman, and we will not stop. We will continue to conduct dynamic targeting operations. We're hunting Iran's last remaining mobile ballistic missile launchers to eliminate what I would characterize as their lingering launch capability. Now, in retaliation, the Iranian regime has launched over 500 ballistic missiles and over 2,000 drones. To be clear, Iran is indiscriminately targeting civilians as they launch these missiles and drones. You've seen it on TV. The evidence is crystal clear and overwhelming. Having said this, we are seeing Iran's ability to hit us and our partners is declining, while our combat power, on the other hand, is building. And my overall operational assessment is that we are ahead of our game plan. Along the way, every single branch of our military is achieving unprecedented success. I'll talk about just a few of them. Our naval forces have deployed multiple waves of cruise missiles, obliterating Iranian command and control and air defense capabilities. From 2 air carrier strike groups, we're squeezing Iran on the sea and have them backed into their own ports. U.S. Air Force are doing what they do best, executing a high volume of airstrikes right into Iran. Operationally, the 2 most powerful air forces in the world, the U.S. and Israel, are dominating the skies of the world's largest state sponsor of terror. Our U.S. Army soldiers are defending ourselves and our partners, and in a historic first, the U.S. Army fired long-range precision strike missiles called PRISMs in combat, providing an unrivaled deep strike capability. Also, for the first time, U.S. Central Command's drone task force, called Task Force Scorpion Strike, launched countless one-way attack drones, achieving massive effects. I'd like to point out these drones were originally an Iranian design. We took them back to America, made them better, and fired them right back at Iran. I just could not be prouder of our men and women in uniform, leveraging innovation to create dilemmas for the enemy. There is no adversary too determined, no mission too difficult for the great soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen that make up the most powerful military the world has ever seen. Our military objectives are crystal clear, and our people are executing an immensely complex and historic mission with relentless lethality, conviction, and professionalism. And we've just begun. But I have the utmost confidence that we, alongside our partners, will absolutely achieve our military objectives. To all our warriors, Godspeed. Thanks so much.
Okay, an important speech from a general, I believe he said, in the military.
Do your taxes for you and get you every dollar you deserve. Local tax experts are here. Hand off your taxes with confidence.
Exhausted.
No, not at all. I just I think we're setting records like Mr. Biggs and now
6 minutes.
John Lay from California. You're gonna go for the record?
If I'm being honest, I threw out 50 of them.
God bless you. Let's go. So let's get
Oh,
started.
we got pros,
A
you
Vox
guys.
article,
We got
the mess that
pros.
Kristi Noem made.
Without objection.
Times article, Noem's spending rule causes delays at Homeland Security.
Without objection.
Politico, vote to overhaul FEMA canceled after leaked report.
Without objection.
ProPublica, Kristi Noem misled Congress about top aide's role at DHS.
Without objection.
The Hill, Trump approval rating on immigration at record low.
Without objection.
Wall Street Journal, pilot fired over Kristi Noem's missing blanket.
Without objection.
CNN article, sources describe how Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's Gucci bag was stolen under
Did
her
you get him,
chair.
Flying Eagle?
Without objection.
New York Times, late night is
Okay.
distracted by Kristi Noem's oversized hats. That one's my
Without
favorite.
objection.
And a Times article, some Republicans joined calls for DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to step down.
Without objection.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your indulgence. Before I begin, first let me say to the families that are still here, I am very sorry for your loss. I watched parents in my hometown of Parkland bury their kids after the shooting at my high school at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and I can't tell you that it was an out-of-body experience, and there's nothing like burying a child. So I am deeply sorry for your loss. Madam Secretary, welcome. Good afternoon. Thomas Massey mentioned Ron DeSantis' response during COVID. Well, you're looking at the guy who ran that response. I was the Director of Emergency Management for the state of Florida. For Republican governor, I worked with the Trump FEMA administration during the Category 5 Hurricane Michael recovery. That Trump's FEMA was great. We got expedited reimbursement, a program that you got rid of or threatened to get rid of. And the Panhandle had one of the greatest responses after that Category 5 storm. President said he wanted to reform FEMA, but that's not what you did. You've basically destroyed the agency. Largest FEMA backlog in the history of FEMA. My state of Florida is owed $2.5 billion. You have delayed the FEMA disaster declarations, even when the applicants meet FEMA's statutory threshold under the Stafford Act. You want states to do more, yet you want to cut the EMPG program, which grants them funding to build capacity. Your office was involved in discussions of moving FEMA to Texas. You created a rule of anything over $100,000 has to come to your desk, a rule that has slowed down FEMA reimbursement, FEMA response. We have empty regional offices. You have done the opposite of what President Trump wanted to accomplish, which was to speed up the process. Your policies have made the department slower. I didn't think it was possible to make FEMA more bureaucratic, but boy, you have exceeded all my expectations. In the Texas floods, you didn't put the urban search and rescue crews on the road for 72 hours. Days later, the FEMA urban search and rescue chief resigned in protest. You hired 2 people as the administrator with no FEMA experience. We're on our 3rd history of the department. Has that ever happened? The president took presidential action to create the FEMA Council. I supported it. You opposed the FEMA Council. You delayed its beginning. The report has still not come out. The White House canceled your last council meeting and has held up the release of the report. But surprise, I have it. I have it. I want to thank the former FEMA employees that you fired who gave this to me. This report's never been seen in public before, okay? But this is it. This was the report. It was 122 pages, the original draft report. You and Corey Lewandowski then took the report and made it 23 pages. You cut out all the stuff that was put in by governors who had been through disasters, emergency management directors, FEMA experts, national security experts. You cut it all out. It's all gone. That's why the report's not been released. Sitting in the White House trying to figure out this mess that you created. So instead of getting the recommendations we need, now we have nothing. You've called Corey Lewandowski a special government employee. I understand what government means. I understand what employee means, okay? But I don't know what makes him special. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to answer on the record to Ms. Camlager-Dove's question. I know you said it's garbage, and it may be, but I really think you need to say the word no into the record so that you can clear that up.
I think the ridiculousness of this and the tabloids that you are quoting and referencing are insane. And this has been
So that's a no?
something that I've refuted
Is
for
that a no?
years, and I continue to do that.
So it's a
What I
no.
would tell you is
We
when
can move
in
on.
regards
Hold
to
on.
what you're
Madam Secretary,
doing,
we can move on. I'm not going to belabor it. If it's
this is what you do.
hold on. I'm
Socialist,
not doing anything.
liberal left,
Okay.
is you go off and you attack conservative women, and you say that we're either stupid
I haven't
or
said
we're
anything.
sluts.
All right. So listen.
And that's what you do.
Yesterday,
I will tell
Richard,
you, sir,
yes, reclaiming
I will
my
tell
time,
you,
Mr.
sir,
Chairman.
I
Mr.
am
Chairman,
neither of
reclaiming my
those.
time.
I
You
am
were asked
neither
by
of
Richard
those.
Blumenthal
This is from
yesterday.
the
You were asked
out of
by
the
Richard
Democratic
Blumenthal
Party.
yesterday if Corey was involved in approving contracts. You said no. Do you want to correct that?
What I would say is that he has an advisor to the Department of Homeland Security, has no
Madam Secretary, do
decision-making
you want to correct it?
authority.
Yes or no? You don't want to correct
no
it? Fine.
decision-making authority,
hold
no
on.
role in
Not a
contract.
problem. According to one of the FEMA administrators that you fired, there is nothing, including contracts, that is brought to you that he hasn't reviewed. In fact, a significant amount of DHS internal routing documents has his signature on it above deputy secretaries. Okay? That former FEMA administrator wasn't fired by you, the secretary. He was fired by Corey. It was Corey that called him into your office. It was Corey that made him to submit to a polygraph test. The $100,000 spending rule that you created that comes to your desk, you're not even sitting at your desk. It's Corey who's sitting there. ISIS said the Republicans should be happy at the job that you're doing. Really? You're looking at the person who single-handedly took the president's signature core issue, immigration, the issue that got him elected from 59% to 39%. 200 miles of border walls being held up by you. They had to bring in Tom Homan, pull out of Minnesota. I think the country needs a national divorce from you on biblical grounds. I mean, if Donald Trump was still apprentice Trump, he would look at you and he would realize you're the weakest cabinet member and he would fire you. And if the president said to you that only way DHS could reopen is if you resigned, I hope you would take him up on it. Now, I want to end on a happy note, Mr. Chairman, real quickly. The president gave all sorts of stuff out during the State of the Union. I don't want you to leave. I got you a new Coast Guard blankie, the one you lost. Okay, so this is for you. You don't leave empty-handed when you come to judiciary. Thank you, Mr.
Time,
Chairman.
the gentleman has expired. The gentleman from Missouri is.
What a idiot.
Charge of
7 minutes.
protecting the homeland. And so your judgment and the judgment of your senior staff can be the difference between life and death. So I think that judgment would need to be unassailable. Why then, is the question, have you made Corey Lewandowski your de facto chief of staff who possesses an unchecked level of power at DHS? Under your leadership, this person has done things like fire your FEMA administrator while sitting behind your desk, which is your job to do, lobby to build the controversial detention facility known as Alligator Alcatraz, which has turned into a legal boondoggle costing Florida millions, and have veto and reviewing and signing power over large DHS contracts and grants, which again is your job. DHS has critical agency components like the Secret Service, FEMA, Border Patrol, cybersecurity. So does Corey Lewandowski have national security experience, military experience, law enforcement experience? No. He is a lobbyist, a failed campaign manager, which is causing my constituents who are waiting for their FEMA dollars and me to wonder what are his qualifications for this job. So according to the Wall Street Journal, you and Mr. L have a close relationship that has made President Trump, quote, uncomfortable. The president reportedly denounced Corey Lewandowski as your chief of staff due to reports of a romantic relationship between the two of you. So instead, you designated him as a special government and employee, a position he has had well beyond the allowed 130 days and requires him to disclose if he is making money off of his position. Trump knows that this guy is shady. Corey has a decades-long record of physical battery, sexual harassment, illegal lobbying for a Venezuelan oil company, and bringing a loaded gun into a federal building. Despite being fired or removed from virtually every position he has ever held due to misconduct, he now wields unchecked, unconfirmed, undisclosed power over your department. This person has no experience running anything close to Department of Homeland Security or even advising someone in your position. He is unqualified which again has left my constituents and I wondering why he is your top official. So Secretary Noem, at any time during your tenure as Director of Department of Homeland Security, have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski?
Mr. Chairman, I am shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloid garbage in this committee today.
Reclaiming
And
my
ma'am,
time.
one thing that I would tell you is that he is a special government employee who works for the White House. There are thousands of them in the federal government.
So reclaiming
and
my
is an
time,
advisor
Secretary, it is
and has
okay for
no-
you to be
no
offended
authority
by
to
the
be making
question.
any
It is
decisions,
okay for you to
has
be
no
offended
authority
by the
to be
question.
making
But it is
decisions
also
and
a
putting up
real
your position.
question.
So what I would say
And
to
you should be able to
is
answer
that
the
what we do at the
question
Department of Homeland Security
clearly
every single
and without
day,
any hesitation.
every single day is to protect
If
this
someone
country
is
and to
asking
make
if
decisions.
you or any federal official is sleeping
have-
with their subordinate, that should
I
be
have-
the easiest. You should be wanting to answer that question.
Is garbage.
Because it is not about
It is
your sex
offensive
life.
that you have brought
It is
that up.
about your
So
judgment.
that kind of garbage
It is
has been
about
refuted
reclaiming
for
my
years,
time so
and
that
you
I
need
can
to
hear myself.
recognize-
Time belongs-
share.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from California, but it'd be nice if you would let her respond.
I will. I want to let you know, it is about your judgment and decision-making. It is about the 260,000 employees that work under you that want to make sure that you are giving information and making decisions clearly. It is about conflict of interest. It is about a national security risk. Department of Homeland Security was created right after 9/11 to protect
Three
the
minutes.
homeland. And DHS has circulated an internal bulletin to law enforcement partners warning that the conflict of the war we're in could inspire lone actors or small-scale cyber activity inside the United States, according to a memo obtained by ABC News. So American lives are at risk. The people who work for you are at risk. And they want to know that the person at the top, you, are making decisions clearly without any sort of cloudiness, and that they're your decisions because you're the secretary who was confirmed. That's what this is about. Saving the lives of Americans and not costing them millions of dollars and not having a secretary who's compromised in her decision-making. And Mr. Chair, before I yield my time, I would like to enter into the record some articles, and I'm asking for unanimous consent. Noem tightens her grip on DHS. Lewandowski fired FEMA admin.
Without
I'll say
objection.
Okay. The next one is Kristi Noem secretly took a cut of political donations from ProPublica.
Without objection.
Kristi Noem fires pilot over a blanket, but is forced to reinstate him to fly home. Wall Street Journal.
Without objection.
Lewandowski taking out trash at Noem's D.C. home. Daily Beast.
Without objection.
Barbie's Mile High privacy chamber with alleged lover exposed. Wall Street Journal. How Corey Lewandowski became Kristi Noem's gatekeeper at DHS.
Without objection.
A pilot fired over Kristi Noem's missing blanket and the constant chaos inside DHS.
Without
Wall
objection.
Street Journal. Police charge Trump campaign manager with assault. PBS News.
Without objection.
Woman who accused Corey Lewandowski of assault speaks out. I don't want this to happen to anyone else. CBS News. Lewandowski's firm quietly inked deal with Venezuela-owned company Politico.
Without objection.
List of U.S. cities raising security amid
God.
Iran conflict. Newsweek.
Without objection.
Kristi Noem, I have a few more, I'm sorry. Kristi Noem misled Congress yesterday about top aides' role in DHS contracts.
Without objection.
Policy number 10271 from ICE, it is an anti-fraternization policy prohibiting romantic or sexual relationships between supervisors and their subordinates. And with that, I yield.
Without objection.
Wow. More garbage. I got one more clip from the hearing I want to get out.
Billions lost to fraud in that state. Chairman Comer and Republicans hammered home questions as to why fraud wasn't stopped after years of abuse, totaling as much as $9 billion in Medicaid and social services funds, while Democrats attacked the ICE crackdown and reported overreaches that the feds have said is connected to the state's fraud and the stoppage of federal payments to Minnesota while those investigations are underway. Let's listen in for a bit live to this hearing.
Of 2 U.S. citizens. And so my question is, why are we not conducting oversight over that? 2 U.S. citizens that have been murdered by the federal government. Renee Good, a Minneapolis mom, murdered. Alex Preddy, a Minneapolis VA nurse, murdered. Nurul Amin Shah Alam, a partially blind refugee in Buffalo, New York, dead after being left in a parking lot by DHS without even a pair of shoes on. The kidnapping of children like Liam Ramos. And an administration that has launched an unauthorized war in the Middle East with 6 service members dead and over 160 school children and their teachers dead and buried yesterday. Never in my life have I seen a greater disregard for the Constitution, for the rule of law, for the carelessness for human life and basic.
All right, that is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz there. He is joined by the state's attorney general. We don't see him on camera right now. They are being questioned by the House Oversight Committee when it comes to billions of taxpayer dollars lost to fraud in that state. Let's listen to some sound from earlier in today's hearing.
When fraud concerns were raised early in your tenure in the Child Care Assistance Program, did your administration stop payments at that time?
The Child Care Assistance Program and
the answer is no. When fraud concerns were raised,
would you like me to answer or not, Chairman?
Well, it's yes or no.
I want you to help.
You've already answered the question. You said you didn't ever stop payments, and that's what the problem is, and that's what the Democrats are complaining about. Oh my gosh, Trump stopped payments. Well, my God, you lost billions to fraud in Minnesota. That's what this hearing's about.
Chairman,
you didn't stop payments because you didn't want to rock the boat. And when fraud concerns were raised, Chairman. When fraud concerns were raised in Medicaid, home and community-based services, did your administration stop payments? No, you did not.
All right, that was just a piece from that hearing there, which we'll continue to monitor. It's still ahead, the first big test of the midterm.
All right. That was quite a hearing today. A lot of people couldn't watch it. People were at work. Next one's a short one.
Is it the position of this administration press should not prominently cover the deaths of U.S. service members?
No, it's the position of this administration that the press in this room and the press across the country should accurately report on the success of Operation Epic Fury and the damage it is doing to the rogue Iranian regime that has threatened the lives of every single American in this room. If the Iranian regime had their choice, they would kill every single person in this room. And so we can all be very grateful that we have an administration and that we have men and women in our armed forces who are willing to sacrifice their own lives for the rest of us in this room and for every American across the country and for every troop that is based in the Middle East. That's what these.
Secretary Exxon was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed.
That's not what the secretary said, Caitlin, and that's not what the secretary meant. And you know it. You know you are being disingenuous. There is not. We've never had a Secretary of Defense who cares more.
Get through where tragic things happen. It's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad.
Yeah,
as you know, we cover
press
the deaths of U.S. service members under every president.
The press does only want to make the president look bad. That's a fact. Especially you. No, listen to me. Especially you and especially CNN. And the Secretary of Defense cares deeply about our war fighters and our men and women in uniform. He travels all across this country to meet with them, to connect with them, and your network has hardly ever probably reported on that. You also had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Chairman Kane, who's a brave patriot, standing alongside the secretary at the Pentagon this morning, again expressing his condolences to these families. And I just told you that the President of the United States will be attending their dignified transfer. So please,
That's not making the president look bad. That's showcasing that.
We expect you to cover that as you should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make.
If you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree, and your ratings would tend to disagree with that as well. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. On the school strike, back to that for a minute. I understand that the U.S. does not target civilian infrastructure. That's what you said. Can you say that there's any evidence right now that it was not a U.S. strike? And then also, you didn't mention Israel in that. Is there any assessment about Israel's potential likely role in that, if at all?
Again, the Department of War is currently investigating this matter. But again, I will reaffirm that the Department of War and the United States Armed Forces do not target civilians, as does the Iranian regime, who kill and execute their own people. Christian.
Okay. Carolina
Reuters, November 27th.
CNN. Six minutes on this one.
I want to thank you, Mr. President, for leadership. Very early on, I mean, first week, I'm in my new job. I haven't had a boss in 40 years, and I'm in the Oval Office adjusting to this. And the president says to me two things very clearly. He says, number one, we have to lead in AI. We have to lead. This is a transformative technology. America must lead in AI. And the old energy policies that were going on would not lead in AI. We need to lead in AI. Number two, the government's a bureaucracy. It's always in the way of things. It's been in the way of AI. We've got to run the government like a business. The businesses who want to invest are our partners and get them here right away. And we've got to work with those partners. And boy, we have 7 incredible leaders in the room today. We're going to win in AI, and we're going to stop the rise in electricity prices because of the 7 leaders that are sitting around this table. The president said you're going to work with them like business leaders. Ultimately, this is not a negotiation where one side wins and one side loses. We have the same interests. The interest of the businesses is to be embraced by the communities so they can build and develop data centers in their communities. Those data centers that are developed there are going to bring jobs and opportunities for people. They're going to have us lead in artificial intelligence, critical for our economy, critical for our national defense, and critical for our security. The nation that leads in AI will be the military superpower. That has been and must remain the United States of America. But this is a pivot and this is a transformation. And it's the bold leadership of the president and the bold long-term vision of the business leaders that I am very proud to call partners and friends around this table that have invested that money, that have developed those technologies, that are willing to invest those dollars, and are also willing to fix the biggest problem. We had 30% electricity price rises during the Biden administration, and we shrunk our amount of available dispatchable electricity. That is a train wreck waiting to happen. And the president recognized from the start, we have to lead in AI and we have to stop electricity price rise. And those are not in contradiction. These companies are smart, they're powerful, they're strong, they can build power, partner with them. And that's exactly, all of them embraced it. All of them have spent money to these noble causes. And as we heard, a number of states that have partnered with the people on this table have announced multi-year rate freezes. Indiana's the leader now and the first one filing for a rate reduction. But it is the partnership of these companies and a business focused on government, focused on the American people, that is the transformation. But I could not be more proud to be here. I've got to thank also our FERC commissioners that are here. FERC is a noble regulatory agency that just got bureaucratic and lived in a different time and a different age. We need to make things happen fast.
Could they stand up?
Yes, can all the FERC commissioners stand up?
Because, you know, they're the most powerful people in the country. And I have had more people say, do you know FERC? I said, do I know FERC? What about FERC? And I learned so much about you, and you are the most powerful people in the country. So we want to be very nice to you. Please get us approvals. Please get us those approvals, okay? Thank you all very much. Thank you.
The FERC team has worked hard, smartly, and practically to enable the revolution that's going to happen. America leading in AI and stopping the price rises. Thank you all so much. And boy, one of the other things I'm crazy lucky about is to work as a partner with a guy who has the hardest job in the world and does it with a smile, does it with charm, and does it with grace. Speaker Mike Johnson.
Well, thanks so much, Mr. Secretary. Thanks to you all. It's a great honor to be here with the leaders of tech and industry, the FERC commissioners. They are so very important, and all these folks who help all this happen. Look, only President Trump has the gravitas to be able to assemble the leaders of all these great companies in one room, and also to conceive of an idea like the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. This is an idea whose time has come. I think it's going to be so well received around the country because, let's be honest about it, there are concerns that people have had. There's a lot of misinformation out there, Mr. Secretary, about the rise in energy demand and what that's going to mean for our communities. So it is so meaningful to have leaders, the titans, to come in and say, everybody be calm. This is going to be great. It's actually going to be better going forward. Not only is America going to stay on top and lead and be the strong superpower that we are, we're going to continue to lead on AI. We're going to continue to make the communities better. I'm in the state of Louisiana. A lot of this is happening in Louisiana, Mr. President. It's not just a bunch of beautiful pipes. It's also data centers. Meta's doing a big one. And of course, Amazon's working in Louisiana, and Stack, and so many of the other companies. And our communities are so grateful to have that investment, and also grateful because they're coming in as great corporate partners, community partners, and they're acting responsibly. They're helping to build out the energy grid, and they're making life better, not just with good paying jobs. They're actually making life better in these communities and in our states. And so we're so grateful for that. I like what you said a moment ago. This is a win-win-win across the board. You have everybody who's come to the table in good faith under the leadership of this extraordinary president to make this happen for the country. It's at the perfect time. Trust is not given by communities and local stakeholders. It's built over time. And I think this pledge is a huge part of building that important foundation for the future. America's back, Mr. President. I'm so excited about that. Excited to be a part of this. Thanks so much for letting us be it. Yeah.
Okay. That was an important meeting there, I think, AI. I got a Michigan clip, and then we'll get going on other videos.
I'm Mike Duffy.
And I'm Glenda Lewis. As the strike continue overseas, many here in Michigan are watching the economic impact, especially gas prices. Economists say oil prices are expected to keep climbing. President Trump addressing that today.
As soon as this ends, those prices are going to drop, I believe, lower than even before.
Drivers in Metro Detroit are paying about $3.13 a gallon right now. That's up about 17 cents just in a week.
It was also a volatile day on Wall Street. The Dow dropped nearly 1,000 points at the open before recovering some ground, but still closed down 403 points.
7 News Detroit reporter Ruta Olsenaida is talking to an economist and a petroleum expert to find out what's ahead for your wallet and to get drivers who are already feeling the pinch.
$3.39 for a gallon of gas here in Shelby Township. And with the president saying the conflict with Iran is expected to last weeks, economists say these prices should get higher.
Is it almost a case of we haven't seen nothing yet?
Oh, I think that's the case. I think we haven't even seen the beginning of this in terms of the impact.
Economist and Oakland University professor Dr. Michael Greiner says the cost of the conflict in the Middle East is already affecting our economy here at home. On Tuesday, stocks, bonds, and crypto all taking a major dive.
You know, there's definitely this fear among investors, and, you know, they hate uncertainty, and nothing creates more uncertainty than a war.
About a minute and a half.
Meanwhile, gas prices jumped on Tuesday as the conflict is also now interrupting the oil industry.
We're seeing the effects of the conflict at the pump. Michigan's average is up 14 cents overnight from $2.99 yesterday to $3.14 a gallon today.
Drivers say the double-digit average jump is just not something they can afford right now.
Having to pay more for gas is definitely not helping.
barely making it by as it is.
I just don't even know how people can survive on one income anymore, or even two incomes. It's like now you have to have 3 jobs in order to make it.
Iran has also vowed to attack any ship attempting to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery for oil transportation nestled along the country.
With that strait being blocked, it causes a ripple effect. And it affects even countries that don't rely heavily on oil from the Middle East.
From oil to the stock market, Dr. Greiner says the impact won't stop there, with the conflict also having the ability to affect Michigan's auto industry and business activity. But he remains hopeful.
The U.S. economy is very strong. We have an incredible ability to bounce back from crises. We've shown that time and again. And even though this might cause some short-term discomfort, I think that in the long run, that the United States will be fine.
In Shelby Township, I'm Ruta Olsinaida, 7 News Detroit.
Ruta, thank
you. Okay. That was our my state there, Michigan.
Rules, pesticides, and policy. A federal audit says tens of millions in autism therapy funds were misspent. Precinct caucuses are launching the 2026 cycle. And nationally, China is amplifying anti-war protests while Americans debate what happens when politics enters personal relationships. Here's the latest from Colorado and beyond. Let's dive in. In Colorado, a new federal audit is raising major accountability questions. Investigators found that Colorado improperly claimed about $78 million in federal Medicaid funds tied to autism therapy services. The audit says the state's billing practices didn't comply with federal rules, meaning taxpayers could ultimately be responsible for repaying the funds. State officials dispute parts of the findings, but the report adds to growing scrutiny over how federal health care dollars are managed. Meanwhile, under the Golden Dome, grassroots election reforms backed by citizen activists fell short after lawmakers advanced House Bill 26-1113. Supporters of the proposed amendments argued they would strengthen election transparency and accountability. But those changes were rejected, and the underlying bill moved forward largely intact, fueling criticism from election integrity advocates who say lawmakers are dismissing grassroots concerns. Another battle is unfolding around the state's judiciary. The former director of Colorado's Office of Judicial Discipline has filed a federal lawsuit challenging how the Colorado Supreme Court oversees attorney discipline. The suit argues the system lacks proper constitutional safeguards and raises separation of powers concern. The case could test how much authority the state's highest court holds over disciplinary processes. Colorado lawmakers are also divided over the recent U.S. strikes on Iran. Some state officials are praising the show of military strength and deterrence. Others are condemning the escalation and calling for restraint. The debate reflects the broader national divide over foreign policy and America's role on the world stage. Back to the legislature, rural lawmakers are pushing back against a pesticide restriction backed by Governor Jared Polis. Supporters of the restrictions say they're necessary to protect pollinators and the government, but rural legislators argue that the policy could harm farmers and ranchers who rely on crop protection tools to maintain production and protect their livelihoods. Colorado politics is also shifting toward campaign mode. Precinct caucuses are beginning across the state, marking the first step in the 2026 election cycle. Caucuses allow party members to organize locally, elect delegates, and shape party platforms. For grassroots activists, it's one of the most important entry points into the political process. Head to our social media. We have a great article on how the caucus system works as well. Another commentary raising eyebrows argues Colorado may be following California down a risky fiscal path. The piece warns that rising spending, regulatory pressure, and economic policy decisions could mirror the challenges now facing California's budget and business climate. On the national stage, intelligence reporting suggests China's propaganda networks are amplifying anti-war protests following U.S. strikes on Iran. Analysts say Beijing's messaging aims to exploit political divisions in the United States and weaken public support for American military actions abroad. And finally, a cultural reflection making the rounds asks, what happens when politics collide with personal relationships? I think this is something we can all relate to. In The Friendship Test, the name of the commentary, the author explores how friendships can fracture when political views become known, arguing that political identity is increasingly shaping how Americans judge one another. For the full stories behind today's headlines, visit RockyMountainVoice.com, and we will see you tomorrow, folks.
Okay, lady does the Colorado news. And now this is the 4-minute one from Mel's channel. About 4 minutes.
Don't navigate it alone. Most people believe once RV is activated, the hard part is over. The waiting is done. The positioning is finished. The breakthrough has arrived. And in that moment, there is excitement, relief, even disbelief. You check your account. You see the numbers. And you think, that's it. I'm safe now. But what if I told you the real danger doesn't happen before RV? It happens right after. Activation is not the final phase. It is the beginning of exposure. The moment wealth becomes visible inside your banking structure, you are no longer invisible. Systems notice, algorithms notice, people notice. Attention shifts quietly toward you, not in a dramatic movie scene, but through data, movement, patterns, and behavior, and that is where the wealth trap begins. The trap is not a crash. It is not an immediate freeze. It is not chaos. The trap is psychological and structural. Most people change their behavior too fast. They move money too quickly. They speak too openly. They upgrade lifestyles immediately. And every sudden shift creates visibility. Sudden visibility creates risk. The system is built on patterns. When your pattern changes overnight, you stand out. And standing out is never step one in wealth protection. Think about it carefully. Banks operate on risk models. Governments operate on compliance frameworks. Financial institutions operate on reporting thresholds. When large changes happen rapidly, additional layers of review can quietly activate. Not because you did something wrong, but because large movements always trigger attention. And attention, in the early phase of new wealth, is exactly what you do not want. This is why the wealth trap after RV is so dangerous. People believe the moment they see numbers, they have freedom. But true freedom comes from controlled positioning, calm behavior, strategic pacing, silence. The first phase after activation should look boring from the outside. No sudden upgrades, no dramatic announcements, no emotional decisions. Stability protects wealth more than excitement ever will. And here is the part most people miss completely. The system does not take wealth away in one dramatic event. Wealth erodes through poor timing, poor visibility, and emotional reactions. Taxes mismanaged, assets purchased too quickly, exposure created through lifestyle signals. These are not dramatic mistakes. They are quiet leaks. And quiet leaks destroy more wealth than any crash ever could. Another layer of the wealth trap is pressure from outside your financial system. The moment people sense change, expectations begin to form. Family, friends, business contacts, even opportunities that suddenly appear out of nowhere. Some will sound legitimate, some will sound urgent, some will appeal to emotion. And emotional decisions made in the early phase of wealth are statistically the most expensive decisions a person can make. Protection means creating space between emotion and action. And finally, understand this clearly. Wealth does not need to move immediately to be powerful. It does not need to be spent to be real. It does not need to be displayed to be secure. The strongest financial position is one that remains stable, quiet, and structurally positioned while everything around it adjusts. RV activation may be the beginning of opportunity, but discipline after activation is what determines whether that opportunity becomes permanent wealth or a temporary moment.
When a shopping cart smashed my headlight, we worried we'd have to fight to get paid for such a...
Okay, that was only a short one. That was from Mel. We got the minister from Canada and the other lady. About 3-4 minutes.
Cabinet about what Canada thinks India is doing. So I'm hoping that you can clarify in a yes or no way. Do you agree with your own government official, yes or no, who suggested India is no longer actively interfering in Canada's democratic process and that Indian agents are no longer involved in murders and extortions within Canada? Yes or no?
Well, I'm not sure that's an exact quote.
That is what he suggested.
That's not a quote.
I can read the quote.
I think, we can debate whether you had a discussion that was not for quotation, but if you want to read a quote from something that's not for quotation.
A brief journalist set to travel with the prime minister, and they made a huge shift in policy, saying they are, quote, confident that agents of the Indian government, in their words, are not continuing to be involved in extortions, murders, and violence in Canada. And when we pressed them on that, the senior official said, quote, I really don't think we'd be taking this trip if we thought these kind of activities would continue.
These are the words I would use, and it's important. I would not use those words. Okay, first point. Secondly, our approach, as I said in response to the first question, is one of apologies. The second question is one of vigilance and engagement, and we have made progress.
There have been hundreds of incidents of extortion over the past few years in Peel region. Peel's Sikh community has been particularly targeted. Many incidents go unreported and unresolved.
But regardless of the progress that has been made, it is our responsibility to have both aspects. First and foremost, to be vigilant. Okay, vigilant in terms of tightening the laws, vigilant ensuring that we have the right resources at the security level, at the police level, in terms of the coordination, vigilant in ensuring that those resources are active, vigilant in ensuring that we are using all sources of intelligence to direct resources to protect Canadians.
And attacked because Dharmjit Singh refused to pay. One bullet piercing a trailer, then penetrating the house.
And then alongside that, to be engaged with countries so that if and when there are issues or even a sense of issues, that we are raising them. Engagement at the level of national security, engagement at the level of defense, engagement at the level of police, engagement at the political level. All of those. And if you look at the record, if I may just finish on this, of this government in less than a year, 6 major
that was just
bills,
a video I
many of
followed
which
off
address
Mel.
specifically these issues.
I don't believe
Thousands of new
none of all
resources
that
being
stuff
put in the
is
RCMP and border security. Huge technical resources also being put in place. That's an odd way to put it, but physical resources in terms of surveillance and re-engagement, including at the national security level and the political level, so that we can address these issues actually, in other words, today and prospectively, so that prevention is there as well as redress. Thank you.
So yeah, on the RV, why are they stretching it so long? It should have happened. All the podcasters said it should have went last January or last 2 years ago. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We have just got to keep praying on it, about it, but it should have been here by now. Do you remember this lady, Greg? Hold on. She lives in Texas now. Three minutes.
and trying to hash out any of the problems that we had this pandemic. So you guys all know who Klaus Schwab is, right? Like the epitome of vagina dryness, pretty much. Well, that loser basically stepped down, and then they got somebody else in. But that guy was found to be on the Epstein files, so he had to step down. And now they have a third guy who's also a Swiss dude who pretty much looks like that dude who says diabetes. Let me just show you. New 100-day goals set for faster, equitable pandemic response. The Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovations, CEPI, has set a 100-day goal for the deployment of new vaccines for future pandemics. And then good old Tony Blair, the Prime Minister of the UK from 1997 to 2007, says, if you want the politicians to focus, they need to think, look, this is coming down the track soon. If you tell them about a future pandemic, they'll kind of go, yeah, maybe it's someone else's problem. But if you tell them actually in the next few years, you're going to have the opportunity to make a big difference to the healthcare of your population, that will focus them. I beg your finest pardon. What do you mean in the next few years, the politicians are going to be able to make a huge difference in how we, distribute healthcare? Is it what the WHO says, pretty much, where the nations that signed on to it give the WHO complete autonomy of their countries, and the WHO gets to tell you whatever they want during the pandemic, including to suspend all laws, and that the WHO will become the regulatory body in the world for future pandemics? Let me just show you that. The World Health Organization has started drafting a global pandemic treaty on pandemic preparedness that would grant it absolute power over global biosecurity, such as the power to implement digital identities, vaccine passports, mandatory vaccinations, travel restrictions, standardized medical care, and more. They're going to do it again. And this time they're refining everything that they did wrong in 2020. And tonight, I'm actually going to do my first podcast. It is going to be at 7 p.m. Central Time. And I'm going to show you where it is. And I will run you through the entire pandemic the first time, including all of the policies that was set before the pandemic, back in like 2012, all the way back to 1970. And I'm going to explain it very, very, very clearly and very, very concisely so that we're prepared for the next one, so that we can actually grab loopholes. If you guys are wondering where it's going to be, it's going to be on my Rumble, Facebook page, X, and YouTube, and I'm going to show you guys my pages. That is my Rumble page. It's TruthSeeker01011. That is my YouTube page. It's Tiana Tekic or Tiana TruthSeeker01011, and I only have 4,000 subscribers. If you're on my Facebook, it will be under Tiana Tekic, and that's my actual account. It's verified. See you guys tonight at 7 Central Time.
All right. She's in Texas now. We got one Billy out for tonight.
Time Texas about 1 p.m. Some of the things we'll cover. The U.S. military has made 20,000 hits on Iran. A U.S. sub sinks an Iranian ship using a torpedo for the first time since World War II. And today we have the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, saying the Operation Epic Fury in Iran, the length of time it will take has been extended to 8 weeks. And today, the U.S. military is surging 80,000 more U.S. troops. So let's get started. So we have this coming out that the U.S. military has published its primary objectives in Iran, and that is to destroy the IRGC, Iranian missiles and their launchers, to destroy the Iranian proxies, the Houthis, Hamas, the Lebanon faction Hezbollah, some groups that are operating in Iraq and Syria. So that's going on. And also to forever demolish the nuclear bomb capability of Iran, and to bring about regime change. Now, with regard to the nukes, I'll put this out. It's been my opinion that Iran for decades has had nukes. I believe those nukes are hidden in deep underground bunkers, and that the location of the nukes has been secret. That was shared by the Ayatollah, the mullahs, and other top levels of clerics. I do not believe that the IRGC nor the Iranian military had knowledge of the location. And now we're hearing that the Ayatollah was taken out and 49 top Iranian leaders were taken out Saturday. And we're also hearing that Israel took out another top-level group of clerics called a Council of 88, who were in the process of voting in another Ayatollah, similar to the Catholic Church's process of voting in another pope. And that while the voting was going on, Israel hit that location and took out the 88 Council of 88. I believe that Iran does have nuclear bombs that are hidden at secret locations, and it is most likely probable that the people who knew about the secret locations have already been taken out. So that's going on. And now we have this from 2C TV. Today, there have been hits on 3 known nuclear facilities in Iran, 1 in Isfahan and 2 located near Tehran. And we did, excuse me, we did hear about mysterious explosions taking place before open conflict began. It is believed that was those explosions were being put in place by the Iranian resistance. And we have this General Kane, the head of the U.S. Joint Chiefs, and Secretary of War Hegseth at a presser have reported that the U.S. has taken down 20 Navy ships, plus 1 taken down by a submarine in the past 12 hours. That was near Sri Lanka, and the hit took place in international waters with the submarine firing a torpedo to sink the Iranian Navy ship. And that's the first time since World War II, according to a White House presser, that a torpedo has been used to sink a ship. So that's going on. We have this also today. Israel hit another IRGC building in Tehran. And we're hearing the IRGC is now hitting Turkey. They're hitting the U.S. Nuke bomb location, Incirlik, in Turkey. Turkey is now shooting down the incoming Iranian missiles. And they're being taken out in Turkey by NATO air defense. So far in Turkey, no casualties have been reported. We have that the IRGC in Iran using a decades-old plane, F-4, that Israel has taken down IRGC planes inside Iran. Near Sri Lanka, a U.S. ship sank an Iranian ship a U.S. submarine sank an Iranian ship using a torpedo. Azerbaijan, which is on the border of Iran, is trying to hit into Azerbaijan, where the U.S. has planes parked. But these are being successfully defeated by the U.S. military located inside Azerbaijan. And we have this. We heard recently that a school was hit in Tehran, and the forces who were against America reported it was hit by the U.S. military, which is not, the school was hit. But all schools inside Iran have been closed since this conflict began. Then the IRGC began to hold meetings inside schools. In that particular instance in Tehran, where the school was bombed, that occurred, it was adjacent to an IRGC location, and the IRGC launched a missile that malfunctioned and hit the school. The U.S. Is not hitting schools nor hospitals. And we have this. So the UK and government, Cyprus, we know, an island off of the coastline of Israel, has been hit. Missiles came in. I believe they all were taken down from Iran. And we know the traitor Keir Starmer, traitor to both the U.S. and the UK, the leader of the UK, said before the conflict began, oh, the U.S. can't use any UK bases to launch an attack on Iran. Now, many believe that Keir Starmer is deeply within the pocket of the CCP, and the CCP and Russia are allies of Iran. So we directly see the leader of the UK demonstrating that he is anti-America. And then the Cyprus UK base was targeted by Iran. So then Keir Starmer said, well, okay, so now the U.S. military can defend the UK military in Cyprus. Keir Starmer insulting the UK military by implying that the UK military not only cannot engage in offense, but that the UK military cannot even defend itself. And now we have this. So then the UK said, well, okay, we're going to send out a UK ship carrier, the HMS Dragon, to go to Cyprus to defend the UK military. So he announced that in the past 24 hours. Now it's coming out that the HMS Dragon cannot get out of port in the UK for at least a week. Okay. And now we have this. We have that Iran has run out of its on-the-ground launchers for its missiles because they've all been identified and hit by the U.S. and military primarily. There's a division of labor going on in this conflict. The U.S. military is going after military targets, while Israel is going after government leader locations. So the U.S. military has now taken out most of the on-the-ground Iran missile launchers. So now Iran is having to go to stationary under the ground missile silos to begin firing. So way to go, Iran. So that easily helps the U.S. military locate those under the ground missile launchers. And we have this. Yeah, Iran is out of its mobile launchers and it's out of its on the ground missile launchers. We're hearing that the funeral of the Ayatollah has been canceled. The Iranian TV station is now transmitting from an underground bunker. So that's going on. Apparently, no one's in charge of Iran, we understand. Their top 5 to 6 levels of their government have been neutralized by both the U.S. and Israeli militaries. So it's unknown who is claiming to be the leader in Iran. So someone somewhere said, we better cancel the funeral of the Ayatollah, which would be a gathering of Iranian leaders, which would, I guess, they decided would be a good target, most likely for Israel. So that's going on. And it's widely put forth that there is no top leader operating now in Iran. And that today, March 4, Iran launched 5 missiles toward Israel. This happened within the past couple of hours. We do not know what the result was, whether they were hit Israel or whether Israel took them down. We have this. Now, this is coming out. BP Earthwatch reports this. Okay, take this with a grain of salt, because during the time of conflicts and the U.S. military, excuse me, the greatest military in the history of the world, I believe, is making this public statement. Yeah, Iran hit Al Udeid base. I believe that's in Qatar. And the U.S. military puts this out. That was our primary tracking site. So now we're limited in how many Iranian missiles we can track. So that's going on. And now we have this. We have from the U.S. military. The U.S. military, it's believed, will ask for additional money to resupply, and that companies like Raytheon and Lockheed are asking the U.S. military for an additional $2 billion to resupply the U.S. military. Now, let's be clear. This military industrial complex, who in the 1950s, President Eisenhower warned the American people about, these money suckers. Yeah, we need $2 billion more if you want us to resupply the U.S. military with missiles. Well, I'm totally confident President Trump can accurately deal with the industrial military complex, who he summoned today to the White House. So that's going on. And we have this. We know that the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil supply flows, has been stopped by the IRGC. But the U.S. military has destroyed the Iranian Navy. They no longer have ships. They no longer have above-ground missile launchers. So it's only a matter of time until the U.S. military totally defeats Iran's ability to control the Strait of Hormuz. Until that time, President Trump and the U.S. government are stepping up for ships and tankers flowing through the Strait of Hormuz to say that the U.S. will provide insurance and a limited ability to guard the ships. I believe it's only a matter of days until the Strait of Hormuz is opened. And we have this, and under the control of the U.S. military. We have this, that currently in the Strait of Hormuz, we have 3,200 ships now stopped. Most on this, the right side of the Strait of Hormuz, and many stopped inside the Persian Gulf on the left side of the Strait of Hormuz. But I believe within 24 to 48 hours, the U.S. will be in control of the Strait of Hormuz. We have a public statement from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, that President Trump had said we will be in Iran 4 to 5 weeks. That's being extended to 8 weeks. And we're hearing that the U.S. military is surging today, March 4, an additional 80,000 U.S. military troops to the Middle East. And Turkey and NATO are now defending Turkey against Iranian strikes. And we now have this. The U.S. military has made 20,000 hits inside Iran since Saturday. The U.S. military and Israel, they are continuing to hit Iran and Lebanon, where an Iranian proxy, Hezbollah, is committing suicide. And also Iranian proxy, the Houthis in Yemen, we haven't seen much action from yet. And we have from Ward Carroll additional information about those 3 F-15 Eagles that were shot down over Kuwait. We now know they were taken out by a Kuwaiti F-18. An investigation continues by CENTCOM into why did that happen. And praise the Lord, all 6 pilots were able to eject from the 3 F-15 Eagles and are in stable condition. And we have this from Breitbart. The U.S. has hit 2,000 plus targets. We know the U.S. has made now 20,000 hits inside Iran in less than 100 hours. See, the U.S. military, the greatest military in the history of the world. We have this. President Trump today is meeting with leaders of the U.S. military-industrial complex, including Lockheed and Raytheon. Now, I find this curious. This is coming out from another source, that it's being reported that Iran has in its arsenal 45,000 missiles. And yet, the U.S. military is making this statement, oh, we're down to a 1/10 of that amount, 4,500 missiles. So I will point this out. In the time of war, anything goes. And a strategic military weapon is disinformation. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, another good one from Billy tonight. I got the next two. I got Doug, and then I got one Q video. And let's show what other ones I got. I got a short Trish one. We'll get the first Doug. Oh, wait. We got this one lady. This one's 13 minutes, you guys.
So has UK. Now, the second one is shocking, but this is not the age of Churchill. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative with that, and they ruin relationships. It's a shame.
But the president didn't just publicly trash Britain from the Oval Office. He outflanked Britain's chaos operation in the Strait of Hormuz. When Lloyd's of London announced it was terminating insurance for Gulf shipping, a move which could throw the world economy into chaos, President Trump ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation to step in and provide that coverage. And he put the Navy on notice to escort tankers through the strait. What you're watching is an American president who doesn't need Britain's permission to strike Iran and doesn't need Britain's insurance markets to keep the world's oil moving. 300 years of crown control over that choke point broken in a single day. Now, if you've been watching the news this week, you're being told America is stumbling into another Middle Eastern quagmire, that it's going to be a perpetual war, economic chaos, and it's a president who doesn't know what he's doing. That's the drumbeat from the same people who cheered on every British-backed regime change operation of the last 30 years. I'm Susan Kokinda. I've tracked how the British have used Iran as a trigger for economic and strategic chaos since the days of the gas lines. And I've watched every president since Jimmy Carter let it happen until now. So if you want to keep up with this historic change, hit those like, subscribe, and share buttons so we can stay in touch and expand our reach. So here's what we're going to be covering today. First, Donald Trump's very public rupture with Britain, which is not just on the issue of Iran. Second, why Trump's move against Lloyd's of London is one of the most consequential economic strikes in this entire fight. And third, how Iran's attacks on its own Gulf neighbors handed Trump a sovereign nation coalition that the old imperial system was designed to prevent. So let's go back to the Oval Office. The trigger was Iran. Britain blocked the United States from using Diego Garcia and British Air Force bases for the opening strikes of Operation Epic Fury. Trump had to reroute missions, adding hours of flight time. So when he sat down with German Chancellor Merz on Tuesday, he didn't hold back.
I'm not happy with the UK either. That island that you read about, the lease, okay, he made it for whatever reason, he made a lease of the island. Somebody came and took it away from him. And it's taken 3-4 days for us to work out where we can land there. It would have been much more convenient landing there as opposed to flying many extra hours. So we are very surprised.
Despite the fact that Britain relented on March 1st and allowed the U.S. limited use of its bases for defensive purposes, Prime Minister Keir Starmer drilled down on Britain's opposition to Trump's actions in Iran, speaking to Parliament.
We all remember the mistakes of Iraq, and we have learned those lessons. Any UK actions must always have a lawful basis and a viable, thought-through plan. I say again, we were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran, and we will not join offensive action now.
He said, "We all remember the mistakes of Iraq." That is pretty rich coming from the land of Tony Blair. But then the prime minister dutifully reported the talking point, which came from the Empire's think tank, Chatham House, a few days ago. He said, "This government does not believe in regime change from the skies." What Starmer has repeated is the globalist narrative that Donald Trump is using their regime change playbook and it's not going to work. Well, their problem is that's not what he's doing. So while the strategic split between the United States and the British is out in the open, there is more to Trump's break with the British.
But the UK, what they're doing with energy and what they're doing with immigration is horrible. You have the North Sea. Somebody said yesterday, what would you do if you were in the UK? Open up the North Sea. They got windmills all over the place that are ruining the country, ruining the landscapes, ruining the beautiful fields. Open up the North Sea. And number two, illegal immigration. They got to solve that problem.
Windmills, immigration, those aren't military complaints. That is a systemic indictment of the British model. Green energy deindustrialization is the pet project of the British royal family. King Charles has made it his personal mission, including through Lloyd's, as we'll get to. And unfettered mass immigration is a frontal assault on the coherence of society itself, and Donald Trump has rejected both. Now, look who was sitting next to Donald Trump at that press availability, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who backed the U.S. position on Iran and who recently stated that shutting down Germany's nuclear power plants was a catastrophic mistake. Merz is signaling that Germany wants to exit the managed energy decline that the British imperial system has imposed on Europe. So for the first time since World War II, an American president is treating Germany as a more reliable partner than Britain, not out of sentiment, but because Britain remains committed to the imperial system which Trump is dismantling, while Germany, under Merz, is signaling it wants out. Now, Spain does get a footnote. Trump told Treasury Secretary Bessent to cut off all trade with Madrid for refusing base access and dodging NATO commitments. Donald Trump is not fooling around. So the U.S.-British conflict that we've been exposing for decades is now playing out in the open, from the Oval Office to the Strait of Hormuz. If you want to follow the real fight, you need to subscribe to Promethean Action's free newsletter. We've been covering this from the standpoint of the real historical battle between empire and sovereign nations long before it made headlines. So head on over to the Promethean Action website and subscribe to our free newsletter. The link is in the description. And on the very same day that Trump lowered the boom on Britain, he took direct aim at one of the oldest financial instruments of British imperial power. On Monday, March 2nd, leading ship insurers, including Lloyd's of London, announced they were canceling war risk coverage for the Strait of Hormuz and adjacent waters. 1/3 of the world's oil flows through that strait. Without insurance, no tanker moves. Without tankers, the global economy starts to tremble. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just a shipping lane, it's the jugular of the global energy economy. And Lloyd's of London has been the gatekeeper for 3 centuries, deciding who gets coverage and who gets shut out. Now, don't take my word for it, take theirs. When King George V laid the foundation stone of the Lloyd's building back in 1925, he called it the embodiment of the highest qualities of British commerce. And he said that Lloyd's services, quote, all maritime peoples who are in peace and amity with the British Empire. In peace and amity with the British Empire. Did you catch that? In other words, you get coverage if the Crown approves of you, and suddenly Lloyd's is pulling insurance from a war zone. That doesn't look like risk management. That looks like a weapon. And Lloyd's continues to flaunt its ties to the royals, dedicating a whole section of its website to royal moments. Not only that, Lloyd's has been the enforcer of the green agenda. In 2021, then Prince Charles showed up at Lloyd's to launch his Sustainable Markets Initiative Insurance Task Force, his vehicle for using the global insurance market to enforce the climate agenda on every nation on Earth. The same green agenda that Trump has been systematically dismantling. So when Lloyd's pulls war risk management on the Strait of Hormuz, that is not a neutral actuarial decision. That is the Crown's financial instrument deciding who gets to move energy through the world's most critical choke point. Donald Trump broke that control yesterday when the president announced that the United States Development Finance Corporation would provide political risk insurance at very reasonable prices for all ships traveling through the Gulf, and that the Navy would escort tankers if needed. He concluded by saying the United States will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. This is big. The empire is no longer controlling that vital choke point. Now, here's the final piece, and it's the one that ties the entire week together. While Trump was openly denouncing the British and replacing the king's insurance market, Iran was doing something no American diplomat had achieved in 50 years of trying. It drove the entire Gulf Cooperation Council into an emergency session, which came out with a joint statement of condemnation of Iran. Iran has attacked nations that had been mediating between itself and the U.S. The Gulf nations of Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain had chosen restraint and diplomacy over escalation, right up until the moment Iranian missiles started hitting their hotels, their airports, and their residential neighborhoods. President Trump took note.
The president telling me, quote, "We were surprised. We told those countries we've got this, and now they want to fight, and they're aggressively fighting. They were going to be very little involved, and now they insist on being involved." The Iranians, the president said, quote, "shot into a hotel. They shot into an apartment house. It just made them," meaning the Arab countries, "angry. They love us, but they were watching. There was no reason for them to be involved," unquote.
Even globalist institutions like the Atlantic Council recognized the dramatic shift underway with a March 2nd headline that read, "The Gulf that emerges from the Iran war will be very different." This is not coincidence. This is a realignment in keeping with what President Trump is building with the Abraham Accords and the Board of Peace. The empire has spent decades and decades keeping the region divided and dependent on its political and economic framework. The Accords and the Board of Peace were shutting down that game. And now Iran's missiles have accelerated the next phase, driving the same Gulf sovereign nations that signed or were on the verge of signing the Abraham Accords into a de facto military alignment with the United States out of the simple need to defend themselves. So let's put this all together. Sitting in the Oval Office, President Trump publicly denounced Britain's strategic and economic policies. He ordered the United States to replace the King's Insurance Company in the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran's own missiles drove the entire Gulf into Trump's arms, building the sovereign nations coalition that the old imperial system was designed to prevent. The old order will not go quietly. The risk is real, and President Trump is taking it on behalf of a future free of imperial manipulation. Members of the Promethean Action community are better equipped to understand that than anybody. In times like this, the world needs people with strategic clarity. So please join Promethean Action as members or contributors, and join us tomorrow for our live Q&A. This has been your Wednesday update. Thanks for watching.
Please take a moment.
Okay, the ladies from my TikTok there. There's good videos. Okay, I got one more clip from the hearing, guys, that had a lot of views on it, over 2,000. Then I'll get the next two Doug videos.
You oversaw Operation Metro Search, is that correct?
Yes, as secretary, I oversee ICE and CBP and the HSI officers that were there doing that work.
3,000 ICE agents, Border Control to Minnesota, outnumbering our 10 Metro Police departments, outnumbering by 3 to 1 the number of sworn police officers in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Is that correct?
Yeah. we were working to do targeted operations against
If you could
criminal
answer yes
illegal
or no.
aliens, and we needed to do that in a safe manner to make sure that we could ensure the safety of our law enforcement
Two
officers.
of my constituents, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, were killed. They should be alive today. In fact, in 1 month in the city of Minneapolis, when you look at the 3 fatalities that were results of shooting, 2 of 3 were committed by federal agents. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am.
So your agents, not only their actions resulted in the deaths of 2 innocent American citizens, but they
Innocent?
repeatedly violated my constituents' First Amendment rights to assemble. You say you believe in the Second Amendment right to bear arms, but Alex Preddy was criticized.
I don't know how they think that they were innocent. She had a bad record.
Repeatedly by officials in the administration for having a lawful permit to carry and having a gun. Your agents violated the Fourth Amendment rights of my constituents by ramming through doors of innocent people's homes, innocent citizens' home without any kind of a warrant, and violated the Fifth Amendment right to due process. So as I've shared with my colleagues, if you believe in federalism, in freedom, and in liberty, you should be horrified by what the Department of Homeland Security did in Minnesota. So my first question is, having spoken to Mr. Homan, what is the exact number of DHS agents still in Minnesota?
Well, I believe that there is still close to 650 there, counting the investigators that are there, working to get to the bottom of the unprecedented fraud that has been found in the Medicaid
Was
funding.
5-year-old Liam involved in that fraud? As you know, I am all in on prosecuting fraud. I put in place the U.S. attorney who exposed the fraud under the Biden administration and brought the bulk of the prosecution, and also recommended to Mr. Blanche that Joe Thompson be the acting U.S. attorney who led those prosecutions and now has left the office because the Department of Justice asked him and many others to investigate Renee Good's wife instead of doing their jobs doing fraud. So what I want to know is, when are you going to get down to the original footprint as promised to us?
We're continuing to work at that, although those investigators will continue to stay there to get to the bottom of that fraud, to make sure that those vulnerable people that rely on those programs actually get services from those federal dollars that are spent, that it's not stolen by criminals and used by individuals to enrich themselves and send it out of the country.
Secretary Chung-Li Tao, are you aware that agents bashed in the door of a U.S. citizen, a Hmong elder with no criminal record?
I can't speak to the specifics of that
Did you
case.
see the photos of that man being dragged out of his house in Crocs and in his underwear?
Yes, I did.
Do you believe that he was involved in fraud?
Do not know where that status of that investigation is.
Are you aware that he is a son of a beloved nurse that treated our soldiers in Vietnam?
I believe that we have laws in this country that need to be enforced and need to be applied equally to
Your agents,
everyone.
speaking of enforcing the laws and following the laws, did they have a judicial warrant when they rammed through an American citizen's door?
Our law enforcement officers follow the same protocols and procedures that all law enforcement do.
Are
as
you
to how
aware
they
that he
move
tried
forward.
to show his identification to show that he was American citizen and they didn't want to see it?
Again, these officers conduct themselves in processes. If something was done inaccurately, then certainly we will make sure that we correct it and rectify it in the
Are
future.
you aware that the person they were looking for was in prison and had been in prison for years? His
Yes,
name
I
is
am.
Lou
That's a
Nguyen.
target. Yes, we do targeted operations going after and
Do
looking
you
for.
agree that it is unacceptable for your agents to ram into someone's door and drag someone out in their underwear and below zero temperatures when they have the wrong guy?
Our officers conduct targeted operations and utilize the law processes that are given to them and the
answer
tools.
that you think that's wrong.
They needed to identify that individual, and
They
that
couldn't
individual.
identify him by looking at his identification. Instead, they had to drag him out, throw him in a car, and drive him around for an hour. How about pulling off off-duty police officers, Madam Secretary, every single one of whom made clear who they were? They were people of color, off-duty police officers. In Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, the chief described how one off-duty officer someone of color, a U.S. citizen, was stopped and confronted by ICE agents with their guns drawn, demanding her proof of citizenship. As Chief Bruley said, I wish I could tell you that this was an isolated incident, but the other chief said it had happened to their own officers. Why were these officers stopped?
We have thousands of law enforcement operations that we do every single day.
Do you think they were stopped because they were people of
murderers
color?
and
Were they
rapists
racially
and drug
profiled?
traffickers
Ms.
off
No.
our streets? When I look at these American families that have been victimized by criminals that we have removed from cities and from communities, I'm grateful for the work that our ICE officers do. And by your
Are
only
you
focusing,
defending stopping
I would like
off-duty
to hear you
police
talk about some
officers
of the
of color
operations
and
that we've done
dragging a
to
Hmong
bring
elder
people
out of
to
his
justice.
home?
When you only talk about these situations like this that we are conducting, and you don't talk about the good work that they do to protect people from being victimized by people that are in this country that want to conduct violent crimes against them or take advantage of them. The laws need to apply to everyone, and we're out there enforcing the
I am
law.
a former prosecutor,
Context is
Ms. Noem, and
incredibly
I
important
have always
in every
worked
situation.
with our police well, but that's not what was going. These ICE agents were not following police procedures. After the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, when I spoke to Alex's parents, they told me that you calling him a domestic terrorist, this was directly from them, the day after he was killed, a nurse in our VA, Alex, one of the most hurtful things they could ever imagine was said by you about their son. Do you have anything you want to say to Alex Preddy's parents?
We were relying in the hours after that incident that was so horrific on information we were getting from the ground from
just
our
asked
agents.
if you had
But I
anything
would
you wanted to say to the
but I would
parents
say
or to the family
that's
of
what I'm
Renee
doing
Good
right
after
now, is
you
that
called
I
them domestic
can't
terrorists.
even imagine what they have gone through in the loss of their son and the loss of their family members.
But
It's
how about
absolutely
specifically
tragic.
calling them
And I
domestic
send
terrorists
them-
without any evidence of that?
Sir, ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of.
I think the parents saw it for what it was. After the killings, the federal government refused to cooperate with state law enforcement. Agents blocked Minnesota investigators from accessing the scene. I know because I got directly calls from the mayor. I tried to call the DOJ. I tried to do everything I could because they were very worried about what was going to happen immediately, especially after Alex Preddy's death. Do you think that blocking local law enforcement from the scene of a shooting makes people safer? Yes or no?
Actually, our HSI law enforcement officers risked their lives on that scene, preserving evidence and keeping the violent rioters away from the evidence so it
What
could be
life was
preserved for
lost
the
at that
investigation.
scene, Secretary No?
Huh? Yes, I
It was
understand that.
Alex Preddy's life
And
that was
after it
lost.
became very,
I believe it is in the interest of justice to have a full and transparent investigation.
is the investigations being led by FBI and internal investigations as well into this incident.
Will you commit to reversing the decision to cooperate with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, an agency of seasoned professionals that the agents worked with directly, FBI agents worked with directly to investigate after the shooting assassination of Speaker Hortman, after the killing of those two little kids in that church with the bullets going through those stained glass windows? In both incidents, our federal and local law enforcement worked together and are working together in those investigations. But they have been blocked, the locals have, from being part of this. Why is that, Ms. No?
The FBI is leading this investigation, and I would leave that question for them to answer.
Thank you.
Okay, that was last one on the hearing there. I thought that was another big one there. We'll save Patriot Princess for last.
From the point of view of the who were liberated, as they call out the fake Democrats. That's right. Iranian women absolutely love our military, love Trump, love Israel, and they despise the fake humanitarian Dems. I'm Doug Tenaple. I'm the creator of Earthworm Jim, The Neverhood, a bunch of comic books and video games, and now I do the news for you, the American patriot.
I was born in a country fought by men better than me. Now we're in
This is an Iranian woman talking about how the Democrats, they are brainwashed, and we'll prove it in this episode.
Democrats are brainwashed. I don't understand how you guys can support the killing of 40,000 people over the past 3 weeks. But yet when Trump bombs Iran, this is what they were asking for. They were asking to be bombed so that the government can go away. Now you guys are upset that like an elementary school of children was killed. Well, what about all the 40,000 people that were killed before? This doesn't make any sense. You guys are fake humanitarians and you guys are brainwashed. It's delusional. You guys don't make sense.
Delusional and don't make sense is probably the best words I would use to describe a Democrat. When you try to make sense of them, when they've said that they were the pro-woman party, remember, this is the pro-woman party, women's issues, and they have abandoned 45 million Iranian women, and there's up to 700,000 Iranian voters here in America that are all going to go to Trump because of the Democrats. So I'll let you guys tell me in the chat below, do any of these women's testimony I'm going to show you in this episode move you at all toward them to justify this bombing? Now I'm going to give a quick word to our sponsor, Chapter. You're probably in the wrong Medicare plan. It's probably costing you a lot of money. I've had many of you in my audience tell me you've saved up to $3,000 a year. On average, when people call into Chapter, they save $1,500 a year. Many of you have gotten your prescriptions lumped in with your Medicare through a new plan. Call 631-961-8696 and Chapter will make sure that you're on the right plan. The call is absolutely free. I would not be doing these advertisements if I thought it in any way would mislead you. They have only helped my audience. Call 631-961-8696. It's in the description and it's the first comment on this video. Now, back to the show. These are just a bunch of Iranian women on the streets going absolutely nuts for Trump, in tears.
I love you, Trump. You can't imagine how we are appreciate our country, our people. I'm really appreciate. We love you. Thank you, Mr. President Trump. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you, Mr. President. Dear Mr. President Trump. Trump, kill Khamenei. I'm so happy. Thanks, Trump. Thanks, Trump. You are the best man in the world. I love you, Trump.
I want to have a big thanks to President Trump for keeping his promise and freeing people of Iran that has nothing to do with this government, with this terrorist government.
A terrorist government that women in particular were being abused by. Now that's all organic. None of that is paid for. I'm going to show you now, the Democrats, they can't get sympathy for their side. They can't get any buy-in or agreement for their side. So what do? We all know what Democrats do. They buy it. Here's the leftist agenda caught on video on the streets. Here they are packing up all of their materials and supplies after the protest was done.
If you've ever wondered how protests happen on the spot, this is exactly how. Without organizers, without the music, without the bullhorns, without all of these people coming together. And right now what they're doing is they're loading their trucks to leave out of here after they finish with the protest. None of the protests that you see that happen immediately after something happens, which is all the time now, wouldn't be possible. What's behind me is a combination of Party for Socialism and Liberation. We have Democrat Socialists of America here as well, and a couple very loose communist organizations like Revolutionary Communists for America. None of the protests that you see are organic. They're well organized, and because they're well organized, that means they're well funded through various campaigns, whether it's foreign influence campaigns or it could be even Democrat campaigns. So this is how it all happens.
Democrats don't care as long as it's anti-Trump. That's their main thing. My main point is all of the flack that you see against Trump's efforts in Iran are all paid for by communists. Ask yourself, what does a communist have to do with being pro-Ayatollah when they claim to be pro-woman? Mamdani is a Muslim socialist in New York. Jim Jordan here has the answer.
Can you explain to us the disconnect? Because we hear that there's a thorough out of there and they act like they haven't been told anything.
No, I mean, that's just today's left. I mean, anything that President Trump supports, they're against, even an effort to stop the largest state sponsor of terrorism who's done all kinds of terrible things, even to stop them from getting nuclear capability. Somehow that's a bad thing. We saw the same dynamic a few weeks back when we took out Maduro, the head of a narco-terrorist organization who wasn't even recognized by our government.
Democrats can't condemn it because they're true. Their number one guiding principle is if Trump does it, it's bad. So Democrats for years can say, we're the women's party. Women, come to us. We will defend you. Let's get the male gaze. Let's Me Too them. Let's get them. The patriarchy. Let's get them. Women are being oppressed. You're being abused. Trump is an abuser of women. That's the branding and marketing of the whole E. Jean Carroll campaign. Remember, Trump grabs women by the hoo-hoo. And then when Trump liberates 45 million women in Iran, this is the largest liberation of women in our country's history. The Democrats that are supposed to be pro-women, they cannot say anything kind to Trump. Even like, you know what, Trump, I'm against this war, but thank you for liberating women. I see a good in it. They can't acknowledge even that good. With an estimated 700,000 Iranian American registered to vote, this is a lady. I know it's going to look like she's mad, but she's actually screaming in joy for Trump.
Mr. President, thank you so much. The best president of the United States by far in history. We love you, Mr. President.
Now, the difference between us and the left is we didn't pay for these people to compliment Trump. We don't have some right-wing donor that organizes all the people, gets all the actors in place, puts them all on camera. These women screaming, those are real. Holding the flags, these aren't printed flags handed out, printed flyers handed out, printed posters handed out. These are organic, the people themselves. Now, Democrats are trying to run marketing against Trump right now. And so is the anti-Israel, a tiny percentage on the right. It might be 30% of the right. Organic. We didn't pay for these people.
Trump, 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 thank you.
Organic. This is a dancing in the streets grassroots campaign. This is what put Trump in office in the first place, not through spam and fake news and purchased people, but it's a grassroots populist movement. And I've said this before that freedom knows no, patriotism and freedom and the love of freedom knows no country. America didn't invent it. We got it from someone else. It is a natural right. It is a universal truth in the heart of every man and woman. I thought I'd bring you some more stuff from around the world. This is a UK presenter slamming Keir Starmer. Again, she's not paid to say this. She's not spam.
It horrifies me to read that. And Jake is right. Our amazing armed forces deserve all the credibility. They deserve good resources. They deserve to have our full support. They deserve to be protected, for crying out loud. We were exposed out there. We knew that there was going to be war in that region, and we have left them underfended. And now France and Greece are having to run to our rescue. Do you know what? I've got a message, not just for this Prime Minister, but all of you, for the past 20 years, you have been self-indulgent. You've been naive. Your policy principles have had totally the wrong priorities. It's been about keeping your seats, gaining your seats, pandering to communities who will never vote for you, who do not have our interests at heart. You didn't stop those pro-Palestine marches. You didn't prescribe the Muslim Brotherhood. You didn't prescribe the IRGC. You were weak in support of Israel. You sabotaged our self-sufficiency when it comes to energy production, concreting those oil wells, banning exploration.
She goes on, holy smokes, I like me some strong women. Unlike the left, unlike the Democrats, I like actual, real strong women. And then here's the last one on the handing out of all those posters. It's the truth, the grassroots truth, which is bombing Iran was good and what the people wanted and liberating people. And normal people figured it out. Okay. If you believe something different, you're probably being manipulated by communist spam money.
All right. So you can see that none of this is grassroots. This is all paid for. Hey, how you doing, guys? Where are we headed with these signs?
We're good, Will.
Where are we going here? You guys are saying that this is grassroots, but this does not look very grassroots.
Oh, why is everyone quiet now? I thought we were screaming. I thought we were protesting and screaming. Then you go up and interview these people and suddenly did they all go mute? What happened? Did you get caught? This is what sneaky people doing dishonest stuff do. Look how quiet they are. I thought you guys were all screaming. Nothing.
You guys doing this for free? Show this to people that say that any of this is grassroots. Show it to them. Show them this clip. So all these signs that you see laid out right here are going to Columbus Circle for a protest that Roy Neville Singham is paying for, okay? A CCP billionaire who's trying to sow division into this country. He needs to be looked at, Roy Neville Singham. Oh, here we go, more signs. Oh my God, is this enough, guys?
Is this enough?
Wow. So let's just see roughly how many signs these are. They all say PSL.
Funded by the Chinese Communist Party. And really, the biggest evidence of this is, remember how just 2 weeks ago, all these same signs, same font, same printing, said anti-ICE, anti-ICE, stop ICE. They all said the same thing. And now, same font, same printing, all of the ICE protests magically went away because they weren't organic, they were paid for. And now they just changed their message because this is the old anti-Trump message was stop ICE. The new anti-Trump message is hands off Iran, don't touch Iran. So I'm a Republican, I'm MAGA, I'm a Trump supporter, and I say, put your hands on Iran. Get in there. Let's help them out. Don't forget to call Chapter 631-961-8696. They're buddies of this show. They help get this message out, and they really want to help you with your Medicare. I'm Doug, in exile. Free Iran.
Okay, I still got at least four 4-minute videos, and then one more Doug, and so I'm saying I still got probably to get to 8:30. Might even go to 9. I don't know. We'll see what happens. A lot more to share still.
I haven't changed. I haven't changed one single goddamn bit. I was the exact same morals when the Democrats were in charge. I didn't want any new wars. I didn't want to send money to Ukraine, and I wanted accountability. That's what I wanted. I wanted no more new wars, no more foreign entanglement with Saudi Arabia or Israel. I didn't want any more of that, okay? I didn't want the United States being pimped out to other countries, and I wanted accountability from COVID to Pizzagate to insider trading and Nancy Pelosi. And at the time, you all wanted it too. That's exactly what you wanted. And we got none of it. And now we're at war. And it's going to be weeks or more. Gas will likely go up. Goods will likely go up because that's usually what happens in foreign entanglement. And y'all are supporting it because it's what? Because it's not Biden in Ukraine? Really? I have been called a Putin sympathizer, a grandma killer, a fascist. Okay, 2020, I was a fascist. 2019, I was a grandma killer. 2021, I was a grandma killer again. 2022, I was a Russian sympathizer, Putin lover, because I wouldn't stand in solidarity with Ukraine. Then I became anti-septic because I didn't believe anything that happened on October 7th, not a damn bit of it. And you know what? Neither did Charlie Kirk, but I have always been like this. I didn't change. You changed. You did. You went where the wind blows. You're so indoctrinated to your party that you can't see the forest through the fucking trees. But they said death to America and they teach their children death to... Do you ever wonder why? You ever ask yourself that? Why they say death to America? They say all these big mean words, so maybe we should just send bombs over there? Down what fucking universe does that make sense? And it gets worse. We knew that the social media influencers get paid to post. Gunther Engelman, okay, was sent out yesterday asking $300 for a repost. $300? Charges the same for everybody. There's this Cash App if you want to send them a little something. I do charge. I can send you my Cash App if you still want the repost. The only promotional posts I do are $300 reposts. You get paid $300 per repost that you do? You charge people to repost their bullshit? I can sit here with my full chest and my full face and tell you that I have never, ever ask anybody for money in order to post their shit. I've never taken $1 from anybody to post certain narratives. Never. Not once. The only money that I make through this whole thing is through your creativity program. And that's good enough for me. I don't need any more than that. I don't need $300 a repost. I don't need Influenceable to pay me to push Daily Wire content. I don't need anybody to pay me to be anti-war. I don't need anybody to pay me to not want the United States drug into another proxy war via another country. And there was a time and a place where you all felt the same. I didn't change a damn thing. You did. You know better.
Maria,
you know better than this. But you just gobbled it up anyway. Free the Iranians is the new free the Ukrainians. It's the new masks save lives. 2 weeks to stop the spread. Get the jab so we can go back to normal. That's all this is. That's all this is. Go on. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm anti-American. Call me a leftist as if that's the worst thing I've been called. And no new wars and accountability is coming. It was that easy. And we got none of it. So there you go.
She puts a lot of work into her videos. This one I'm not sure of, Fine Eagle. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene. This guy's talking about.
Those are the same assholes that are backing and supporting the words of people like fucking Tom Cotton. This scumbag, man. Listen to the way that this man sounds and listen to the words that are coming out of his mouth. It's like word vomit. It's nails on a chalkboard. We're only going to listen to it for a few minutes. And then I'm going to jump over and I'm going to show you this clip from MTG. Check this clip out first.
Well, I thought Secretaries Rubio and Hegseth, Chairman Kane, and Director Ratcliffe did a very good job of laying out the intelligence and the current state of operations. The simple reality is Iran has a vast missile arsenal that far exceeds the combined missile defenses of the United States, our Arab friends, and Israel. And it gets much worse every single month. That is an unacceptable risk for the United States. It's an existential risk for our Arab friends in Israel. And it wouldn't get better if we waited for 6 or 12 or 18 months to find a more imminent risk. In fact, Iran has posed an imminent risk to the United States for 47 years as they've maimed and killed thousands of Americans without that vast missile arsenal. The president was right to act when he did.
You ever just watch like the worst reality TV show and it's like they're trying so hard to be good actors, but they just suck. They're complete failures. And that's what makes it a shitty reality TV show or a shitty, television sitcom. They don't have the budget, they don't have the talent, and they don't have the resources to actually pull it off. That's what our government reminds me of. That's what Tom Cotton reminds me of. They act like we're 12 and it's 1990 again and we don't have the internet. Not every single American citizen doesn't have an iPhone, Twitter, Instagram, and have the ability to access real world information directly from the source at real time at our fingertips 24/7. So please forgive me when I don't feel like getting on the Tom Cotton bandwagon all of a sudden because Trump decided he wanted to send our children off to die in some fucking third world fucking hellhole being Israel. What happens to Iran doesn't affect me. Iran didn't open our fucking borders. Iran didn't flood our streets with fentanyl. Iran didn't fucking promote porn. Iran didn't create an environment where 30% of women under the age of 24 are claiming that OnlyFans is their first source of fucking income. They didn't turn our country into prostitutes. They didn't promote that degenerate filth into our schools. Iran didn't promote drag queen story hour. But you know who did? Israel and the Jewish NGOs. It was all of them. And it's always been them. They own all of our fucking politicians. And that's why people like MTG are fucking pissed. And so am I, and rightfully so. Check this clip out.
A year in, and we're in another fucking war, and we've got American troops being killed. What is happening to the man that I supported, you supported, the man that said no more foreign wars, no more regime change, promised it on the campaign. J.D. Vance promised it. Tulsi Gabbard promised it. All of them promised it. And we're a year in, and we're in another fucking war, and we've got American troops being killed. I am furious about this. We are nearly $40 trillion in debt. How much is this war going to cost us? We have seen enough of our American troops dead and murdered for foreign countries. And now we've had 4 dead and murdered, just like you said, for Israel, not for the American people. And I don't want to see any more dead and murdered. Our military is filled with some of the greatest people from our country. And God bless their families who are probably losing their minds right now, terrified that their son or daughter or their husband or wife or brother or sister may come home in a flag-draped coffin. I think it's time for America to rip the Band-Aid off, and we need to have a serious conversation about what the fuck is happening to this country and who in the hell are these decisions being made for, and who is making these decisions.
That fantastic edit you just watched there came from a Instagram and an X account called Breezy Politics. If you guys aren't following Breezy Politics, swing over there and give that account a follow. They're definitely one that's always bringing the heat. God bless them. God bless.
Is that one okay?
Talk about how the Democrats have officially voted for tyranny. That was the whole point of this entire video. But then some things came across and I started reading and I realized this isn't a Democrat tyranny problem. This is a Republican tyranny problem as well. And I know you guys are going to say it's not Republicans, Q. It's the rhinos. It's beginning to be very difficult to tell the difference in the Senate. I'm just being honest. And if I had the ability to vote every single person in the Senate out and start over and Congress, I would 100% do it. Because at this point, I don't know that it's possible to cut all of the cancer out without missing some. So right now we are at war with Iran. We are at war in Lebanon. We are also dealing with a war in Mexico. We are currently carrying out operations along with the Ecuadorian government. We are fighting a war on 3 fronts. Why the media isn't talking about this, I don't know. The problem with that, fighting these wars on all of these fronts, is that we have people in our country from all of those nations. Not very good people, very bad people at that. Meanwhile, we are currently defunding the Department of Homeland Security. Does that make any sense? The Democrats are holding that up and we are not funding. Now, the Republicans are doing very little to get funding back to DHS, one of the few government programs that we can actually justify through the Constitution, because our government is supposed to secure our borders according to the Constitution. Now, all that being said, we are not funding DHS. Then add to that the fact that we currently are trying to get appointments for Donald Trump to be voted on and get through Senate. We can't get confirmations on them. So that works okay because the Senate is now about to go to recess, and Donald Trump can actually use that as a way by which to get recess appointments through. He can appoint people, and because the Senate is on recess, they don't have to vote. He can actually push them through. Well, no, John Thune says, absolutely not, Mr. President. We're going to still block your appointments. That's how you know that this is 100% flagrant. This is 100% on purpose. He's not allowing several people to take a recess. He's doing what's called a pro forma. So what that simply means is that he's going to have them do multiple hearings or meetings, sessions a couple of times a day. And in doing that, that will mean that because they're not technically in recess, Trump will not be able to push through his appointments. So they're going out of their way to make sure that Trump is unable. That's not the Democrats. Those are Republicans. The problem that I have is everybody's up there right now, standing in front of Tim Walz and giving him the what for. Why? Because they're all being reelected this year. And so they want to get their 5 minutes of fame. They want to show we're tough on Democrats. We're going after Tim Walz. We're going after Keith Ellison. We're going to make them pay because they're spending the taxpayers' money and they are cheating us all. Fair enough. But what are you doing about it besides going up and grandstanding in front of the American people as though you care? Meanwhile, you are doing everything you can to thwart Donald Trump's agenda. I know this isn't the positive cue you guys want to hear, but I'm positive it's a problem. Let me know what you guys think.
There's only one cue out today. I want to play Patriot Princess. 5 minutes. Oh, 6 minutes.
We're going to release Chang on them.
What's about, you're about to see, we're going to unleash Chang on these people in the next few hours and days.
What if he's signaling about the Three Gorges Dam? Three Gorges Dam is located in the Yiling district of Yichang. Watch the water. What's really going on under the Three Gorges Dam? There's been reports of Bitcoin mining and other crypto mining going on underground around the Three Gorges Dam. But what else is going on? Is there human trafficking going on and organ harvesting and adrenochrome labs going on under the Three Gorges Dam? I mean, I find it interesting that moving water disrupts the military satellites that can view everything going on everywhere. Look closely where the Three Gorges Dam is located, 4 hours north of Wuhan. What's really going on in the Wuhan labs? Are they adrenochrome labs? Are they organ harvesting labs? If the Three Gorges Dam were to break, Wuhan and all the labs would be decimated. Think about it. If the Three Gorges Dam were to break, Bitcoin would crash.
We were waiting for that one.
Look at the abbreviation for Bitcoin, BTC. What if that stands for Buy the Children? What's really under the Three Gorges Dam? What if the Three Gorges Dam is a major trafficking hub, along with adrenochrome labs and human trafficking and organ harvesting labs and cloning labs under it? The moving water makes it not visible to the military satellites to see what's really going on underneath there. And what if this is directly linked to the cabal and the bad part of Israel? Israel has been the hub of international organ trade since the year 2000. And look who's in the news right now: Hillary Clinton and Governor Walz. As Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton managed the U.S.-China relations, specifically the U.S. Strategic and Economic Dialogue. I mean, that's insane. We're having Hillary Clinton meet with China on issues about human rights and trade. This is all connected with Jeffrey Epstein, the Clinton Foundation, Haiti, Ghislaine Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell is connected to Scott Borgerson. Scott Borgerson is the head of Cargometrics, which is the logistics software for all shipping. It's all connected together, and look who else is in the news: Governor Walz. Governor Walz joined World Teach in 1989, a Harvard nonprofit organization. He went over to China and taught children in schools for a few years. Harvard. What just happened with Harvard? The president of Harvard just stepped down because of ties with Epstein. And don't forget the articles about China funding our K-12 schools. Charlie Kirk even posted about this. Let's go back to what Marco Rubio said again. I have a different theory. He said we're going to unleash Chang on them. And he said there'll be a shift in scope and intensity.
We're going to unleash Chang on these people in the next few hours and days. You're going to really begin to perceive a change in the scope and in the intensity of these attacks.
Focus on the word Chang. We're going to unleash Chang on them. The phrase is a nod to a sword gifted to him by his mentor, who was Jeb Bush. The Bushes are deeply rooted in the CIA. I mean, Bush Sr. was head of the CIA. And look at all the locations we're bombing in Iran. We're taking out the CIA and all their tools and assets in their headquarters. QPost 2941 says scope twice. Scope? Like on a sniper rifle? Makes me think of Kennedy's assassination and how the CIA and Mossad were involved in it. What if there's going to be another attempt on President Trump's life? And Marco Rubio was signaling this.
We're going to unleash Chang on these people in the next few hours and days. You're going to really begin to perceive a change in the scope and in the intensity of these attacks.
Or what if some truth comes out about Kennedy's assassination being connected to the CIA and Mossad? And think about the Bushes. They're directly related to 9/11. What if some truth comes out about them being in on 9/11? I feel like Marco Rubio was speaking two different languages to the press there. One was English, one was coded language. Maybe we should watch the water. Maybe we're about to see a flood. In more ways than one.
Hey, that was a good one. I'm going to play 3 more. I'm going to get 1 more in a second, Doug, and then I'm going to try to get 2 more Benny short ones in.
Or dogfight Iran ever participates in. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. I'm going to give you guys the update on all of the ins and outs of this battle, of this ongoing war, where we must win, and we will win. Prayers for my son in boot camp. Here we go. It's historic. This has never happened in forever. Breaking, IDF says an Israeli Air Force F-351 Adir fighter jet shot down an Iranian Yak-130 aircraft over Tehran. This is the Iran aircraft. I don't know where they're getting these from, but dogfights in the air are not a normal thing for Iran to participate in. They tried, they failed. They scuttled up their craft. They are not going to ever match Israel and America in the skies. What's so historic about it? This marks the first recorded air-to-air kill by an F-35 against a manned aircraft. So usually we have to do all this stuff in training, virtual, whatever. There's the 2 aircrafts. Israel's above and below. That's the Iranian craft. Well, we absolutely dominate the skies. I'm going to give you this quick update from Hegseth on our dominance. And that's what I mean by this is probably the last dogfight that's going to happen, because I think Iran's going to feel like it's a waste of effort to scuttle their aircraft and just give us wins. Here's Hegseth.
Starting last night and to be completed in a few days, in under a week, the 2 most powerful air forces in the world will have complete control of Iranian skies, uncontested airspace. I hope all the folks watching understand what uncontested airspace and complete control means. It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military, finding and fixing their leaders and their military leaders, flying over Tehran, flying over Iran, flying over their capital, flying over the IRGC, Iranian leaders looking up and seeing only U.S. and Israeli air power every minute of every day until we decide it's over. And Iran will be able to do nothing about it. B-2s, B-52s, B-1s, Predator drones, fighters controlling the skies, picking targets, death and destruction from the sky all day long.
Oh, praise God. That is music to my ears. You know, that's the first step of war. You've got to get air dominance. Air dominance. Air dominance basically means sooner or later you lose to Iran. Their military anyways. They're corrupt Islamic radical regime holding their own people hostage. The people that are begging us to bomb them, saying, please bomb this country, is what the women were saying. How bad are your men when your women are begging other countries to bomb them? But it's not just the skies that we're dominating. Here's 10 people missing after submarine attack on an Iranian ship in the Sri Lanka Navy. Let's take a look at that. So this is footage shows a U.S. Navy submarine destroying Iris Dena off the coast of Sri Lanka after firing a single Mk-48 torpedo, the first submarine torpedo kill by the United States since World War II. So once again, I'm showing you guys these historic events that haven't happened since World War II. So first Israel with a dogfight and beating that Iran thing, and here's U.S. hitting one of their ships with one of our subs. Watch the ocean here on the right. Just boom, smacked a hole in it. And that ship went down. So 101 people missing after the submarine attack on the Iranian ship. I would like to say it's probably not a big breaking news for me to say. They should check the bottom of the ocean. I think, now I'm not a genius, but they should check the bottom of the ocean for that one. General shelling, this is in Lebanon. Airstrike destroys building in Beirut's Harek Creek area. So I was just in Lebanon when I took my trip to Israel. I've said that over and over again. It just freaks me out. All my family are calling me going, Doug, you barely got out of there, dude. Watch this. And boom. This is Iran indiscriminately bombing civilian sites. They're just spraying. All right. By the way, this is why I love arguing with people. I love arguing politics. Do you know why? Because arguing politics is not violence. The way that we avoid killing each other and fighting each other is by screaming at each other. Debate saves lives. So everyone goes like, oh, hateful rhetoric. Don't do your hateful rhetoric. I'd rather have hateful rhetoric any day than have a missile smacked into my house or someone hunting me. Tehran's under heavy bombardment as U.S. and Israeli air forces conduct intense airstrikes across multiple targets in the city. This is what I mean by Iran. Our debate broke down with them. Our discussions broke down with them. So now this is what happens in Tehran. What? That is a lot of ordnance on the ground there. The whole city, that's one bombing run. I have other footage. I couldn't get the bomb. Yeah, get down, buddy. Get down. Taking out their infrastructure, taking out their stuff. This is what it looks like on the ground. This one I found. This is a U.S. Navy Tomahawk missile flies dangerously close to a merchant ship heading toward Iranian targets. So just imagine being on a merchant ship, just moving your normal cargo, and then suddenly you see this missile pass by. Watch closely in the skies there. Right there, that's a missile going to Iran from one of our ships in the deep ocean. There's another one. I pray they find their target swiftly and do maximum damage to the enemies and no civilian casualties is my prayer. Next up, we have breaking. Massive waves of strikes reported across Tehran. Explosions rock Iran's capital. This is from earlier today. They're about 8 hours ahead of me in the time zone difference. Watch this. This is in Tehran. And America and Israel aim for infrastructure, military sites, technology, power centers. You'd hear about it from the news. So, you already know Al Jazeera and all these fake news sites, MSNBC or MS Now. If we ever made a mistake like that. Okay, now I've got some weird footage here. This is showing the Iran's underground bunkers. I just want you to look at this clip real quick in the chat. Where do you think, look around, look on this screen, where do you think the missile will come from? Where? This is an underground silo. Guess. Look around right now. Point your finger to the screen where you think it'll come out of. Here goes. One of Iran's underground missiles coming out. Oh, there you go. It's like perfect camouflage. This is why it's so hard for us to find their silos and take out this is by design. This is actually brilliant warcraft. This is what oh, there's another one. Didn't see that one coming either, did you? Completely covered, hard to find, and then hard to blow up once we do find them. You got to put a bomb down in that hole to blow it all up. And this is what oh, another one. This is the only reason why it takes so long. It's not that these guys are any kind of a military threat to us. It's that they're so well hidden. Now, here's Caroline Levitt slams a reporter for repeating Iranian propaganda. Whose side are you on? CNN, MSNBC? We already know whose side they are on. They're on the side that's against Trump. So if Trump looks bad by us losing in Iran, they're praying we lose in Iran.
Did the United States airstrike a girls' elementary school and kill 175 people?
Not that we know of, Sean, and the Department of War is investigating this matter. And I would just tell you very strongly, the United States of America does not target civilians, unlike the rogue Iranian regime that targets civilians, that kills children, that has killed thousands of their own people in the past several weeks, and uses propaganda quite effectively. And unfortunately, many people in this room have fallen for that propaganda. So I would caution you from pointing the finger at the United States of America when it comes to targeting civilians, because that's not something that these armed forces do. Reagan.
Yes, straighten them out, Karine. Karine. I called her Karine Jean-Pierre. That's Caroline Levitt. Straighten them out, Caroline. Oh, I just had a bad a shiver. Ooh, Karine Jean-Pierre. What a horrible memory that is. Here's breaking. Multiple countries are reconsidering talks with China to acquire the HQ-9B air defense system that China makes, and they're trying to sell on the market. Why? After its poor performance in the ongoing Iran-Israel-U.S. war, reports say 3 HQ-9B batteries deployed by Iran were destroyed by U.S.-Israeli strikes within the first hour.
This will be the last one, you guys.
The vehicle on the left, and then on the right is our ship. Too easy to knock out. Sorry, China, you're going to lose that contract too. Here's breaking. The U.S. asked Israel to eliminate the IRGC commander who plotted the assassination attempt against President Trump. We go to Israel, hey, you guys do our dirty work, and they do. That's why they're our great ally. People are angry that we're doing anything with Israel. No, Israel helps us clean up the whole Middle East. Thank God they're there. What a faithful ally they are. They're showing it once again. Who else is helping? By the way, Spain just turned their tail and started agreeing to help. I believe UK is doing the same thing. But Trump, we asked, personal favor, Israel, can you take out the guy that tried to take out Trump? Secretary of War Pete Hegseth confirmed the guy was shot dead. Now, what does that mean? Did you hear that? They confirmed he was shot dead. First of all, how do you confirm it unless you're on the ground with him? Number two, if you shot him dead, then you're on the ground in the room or in the battlefield with him, and you already know his location, indicating the killing was carried out on the ground, not by an airstrike. So Israel has forces over there, or U.S. has forces over there on the ground. It looks like Israel's got people on the ground over there, guys. And finally, I just wanted to show you this on the misinformation front, because there's so much misinformation going around on X that X had to change its policy and say that people that were putting up AI videos of war footage would get their account canceled. Here's some of those fake accounts. Does this look organic? Liam Neeson, that's a fake Liam Neeson account. Apparently, Israel was hit by over 50 missiles last night, but you won't see any footage of it on Elon Musk's Twitter. they say. Oh, look, here's another one. Mary, this is from an hour later. Apparently, Israel was hit by over 50 missiles last night, but you wouldn't see any footage of it on Elon Musk's Twitter. Oh, wait, here's Samuel Kokani. These are all from foreign X accounts, by the way. Apparently, Israel was hit by over 50 missiles last night, but you won't hear about it or any footage on Twitter. These are all mass spam bots funded by, probably not even by Iran, probably by the Democrat Party, probably by international socialists that want Trump to look bad or fail. We, of course, will bring you only the real news. Give us a subscribe. Subscribing is free. Thumbs up is free. Leaving a comment not only is free, but it's fun. Get to know my audience. I've got the best.
All right, you guys. I couldn't go another video. All right, another day-night news update. A lot of good stuff out again today. Hopefully something will happen. Something. All right, everybody have a good night. Thanks for the mod. We got Lonnie okay, Carol, Tim, Watts gonna make it in tonight. And God bless. Please hit like and sub to the description or the backup channels in the description, please. Thank you, and stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith, never give up. And another night, another day tomorrow. I don't know. I might do one tomorrow, so I don't know. I gotta see how I feel tomorrow. Signing off, Chico Dude. We'll see you all tomorrow.